Episode, we're going to be talking about aerial shots and how useful it is, how it was able to create a breakthrough in the wedding industry, its purpose, and before, we only are limited to what we could see on land. The highest that we could see are the ones by using the crane, or you need to be in the helicopter just to get the shot using a stabilizer. But nowadays, this equipment has become very, very popular. There are so many drones in the market nowadays, but Maya has been shooting with a DJI Phantom 3 and 4 for quite a while now. I personally use the Phantom 3 because it's been very stable with me, and I still didn't find the reason to upgrade to the Phantom 4. You can get various shots using this equipment. Considering its 4K capabilities, it's really powerful. You can start with the eye level, you know, the ones where you're following a car, the ones where you're following something just a little bit above the road. And so from there, the Phantom 3 or 4 gives you the capability to shoot as high as the limit is. And the limit would be, it depends on the signal that you have. Like for instance, if you're around the buildings are going to give you lesser connection. In short, you can't fly that far. But if you're in wide open spaces, then you could go a little bit further. It can go high, but you don't really need to. All you need to do is just imagine your type of shots. Before, when I was using the Phantom 2, I couldn't see anything. I was just literally flying it and imagining how it looks like. But now, with the options of the newer Phantoms, you get to see in actual and change the settings within your app. And that's really powerful for me. You can choose whatever size you want, 4K or lower than that. You could have higher frame rates, but I prefer the 24. I really don't need to shoot slow-mo in a Phantom, just because when I view things taken by Phantom, it's supposed to be fast, it's supposed to be quick, it's supposed to be very elegant at the same time. Whenever I get the chance to shoot with a P3 Pro, it's better to shoot it with the best lighting, and that would be for sunrise or sunset. But you could always shoot somewhere along that time, as long as it's not raining. You could risk it, but just imagine this. If you were to lose your drone while you're shooting on the rain, is it worth it or not? It's up to you. If it's something that you'd really want to risk, then go. If not, then I'd want to be playing a little bit of safety. There are certain restrictions in certain areas. Like for cities, like in New York, you're not allowed to shoot drones. But then when you're outside of the range, that's where you could maximize the drone. Here in the Philippines, you could have drones as long as it's not within the city. It's because you need to consider the safety of others as well. Just in case there's going to be failures, you don't want to be accused for injuring someone. The P4 or the P3 Pro comes with its dedicated remote control. And the dedicated remote control requires your phone, and the newer ones have the display embedded in the remote control itself. Upon turning it on, here are the tips and tricks that you need to consider to avoid unnecessary crashes. I had one instance where there's one loose propeller and I flew it, and right then and there, the moment it went up, it went the other side. And good thing the propellers were still intact, except for the other one. But you see, what if there was a person right beside or somewhere near? The other propeller could have flown to her or him. And so it's also best to calibrate your drone before you fly it, so that it knows where the north, south, east, and west would be. Because sometimes that's where the crashing begins. If you don't calibrate it and you just fly it, it gets lost of its orientation mid-air. That's going to be a big problem. Now, how do you maximize your drone? It's by using it at the exact part of the day. Like if you are shooting a garden wedding and the hotel allows you to fly, and then that's the time that you can have that gorgeous view seeing the bride walk down the aisle. One of the best things that you could do with the P3 Pro or the P4 is you could shoot fireworks. You only need to not go more than 800 ISO to avoid the grainy feels, and maximize your shutter speed by setting it to 24. In that way, you get good shots, not overexposed. At the same time, you see the view from down there. So these are additional tips for you to avoid crashing of your drone. First is, as I was able to say, always try to calibrate your drone, especially if you're in a new surroundings. Watch out for the red zone. Sometimes, if you're near airports, you can see in the map that it shows a big red circle. And once you fly those in that area, you wouldn't know where your drone is going to land. As long as it avoids the red circle. If you're inside the red zone, that's going to be hard. Sometimes you're not allowed to fly at all in the first place, but there will be options for you to fly. Just be very, very careful. And of course, metals can disorient your drones, especially the compass inside. So be careful when you're flying near buildings, especially if it's surrounded by a lot of buildings. It might be, of course, you cannot see your drone fully because there's so many things going on at the top. And when it's out of range, that's where you get to be afraid, because you can't see it, and you know that it's metal all around, and there might be a chance that it would crash. But the good thing is, if you're using the P4, you could avoid collision because of its sensor, and maybe, just maybe, you could set it to go home and arrive with you safely. So in this session, we were able to discuss solely about how the drone is, how to maximize it, how to set it up, what are the angles for shooting it, the tips and tricks for you to avoid crashing your drone, especially if it's your first time flying it. I hope you could apply all of them, and thank you for watching.